Welcome to the second part of this lesson. Before I go into the PowerPoint presentation, I just wanted to show you something. First of all, can you do, or just ignore this, but can you just do the tourism quiz before you start with the lesson, and then go through the slides? But yeah, I just wanted to show this. This is under lesson 7, and just ignore what it says up here because that was for the full-time and day release students, so you don't need to worry about this. And this isn't yours, it's the one that obviously will be marked Travelodge. But yeah, just click on this, and then there should be 7 questions, and you've got 2 attempts to answer the quiz, and it should also tell you what you did right or wrong. Okay, let's start with this lesson then. First of all, well, today's lesson is, this is the second part, and it's about the private sector in tourism, the involvement of the private sector in tourism. And obviously, as you're working for Travelodge, you know that the private sector is heavily involved in the industry. But we also talk about how the private sector and the public sector should be working together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to again go through the aim and objectives. Then you've got your tourism quiz, which I've just mentioned before anyway. I give you an overview of the private sector and its aims, the private sector and tourism, and then the role of the private sector in tourism. There's an example of private sector and sustainable tourism development, and also the need for public and private sector cooperation. Okay, the aim is for this lesson is to understand the importance of the private sector within the tourism industry. And the objectives are to identify business activities and objectives of the private sector, to relate the private sector to the tourism industry, to gain an understanding of private and public sector collaboration, and yeah, and you also need to work. Obviously, it's not a paired assignment, but it's a group work. So just make sure you work on your report and also on your group work. Now, the private sector and its business activity. Obviously, and as I said again, you all know that the sector is owned and financed and controlled by private individuals. And and if you look at the business world in general, and if you look on TV and everything, you see that as well. But you also see that these people have to work closely with the public sector because of rules and regulations and laws and legislations and stuff like that. Now, the question is actually who belongs to the private sector. So if you look at the private sector in tourism, for example, and again, as I said, you work for Travelodge, so obviously accommodation providers. So you've got hotels and bed and breakfasts and campsites and places like that that would obviously belong to the private sector in tourism. Then you've got places like restaurants belong there as well, insurance companies, travel companies such as for example, business travel agents who make travel and accommodation arrangement for commercial customers. You've got the leisure travel agents, you've got niche operators, people like that. So they are all owned by private individuals and or group of private individuals, and they sell you the tourism products. Also industry groups that provide services to member organizations. So for example, if you have the Association for British Travel Agents, and they are very close, they very closely work with the public sector as well. You've got IATA, you've got people like that, and you've got ATOL, so those people. Conference venues offer facilities and services to business organizations. Now with the a lot of conference venues, or some conference venues, and this is where obviously the boundaries are a bit blurred as well. You might belong to councils. Again, when I used to work for Eastbourne Borough Council, the theatres are owned by the council, and a lot of the theatres had conference rooms, and people were holding big conferences in there as well in the theatres. So obviously those were they were then more public sector than private sector. But again, if you think of hotels and places like that, there is where the conference venue might be more private sector. And then the other things are places like attractions. But again, they can be a bit blurred because they are council owned attractions as well. But if you think of the Merlin Group and Madame Tussauds and places like that, obviously they are more private sector owned. Um, the business objectives of the private sector are quite varied. Obviously, they want to make a profit. They want to make money. Um, then they need to survive, and obviously that links in with making a profit as well. They've got very often have share prices, and they want their share prices to go up, and satisfy their shareholders and people like that. Now you've got CSR with Laker, so you know that there are a lot of social issues, not just social issues, but also issues regarding the company and what they do to give back to the community, give back to the environment, to involve the community in certain things as well. Market power, so it's very competitive. Again, if you look at the accommodation sector, I think is one of the most competitive areas. Sales and sales revenue. We had the conversation about the different prices for the hotel rooms as well during the Olympics. Efficiency, and again, a lot of businesses are small business as well, and if the small business doesn't work efficiently, it's doomed. Quality and innovation, again, you have to stand out from the crowd. Image and reputation. Especially nowadays with all those TripAdvisor and Booking.com and Facebook and all those websites, your reputation can go down really quickly, but it obviously can go up very quickly as well. When people are not happy, they're more likely, and I think we talked about that in marketing, they're more likely to leave a bad review than a good review, and also more people leave a bad review than, or tell people about something bad than people tell something about something good. And then, again, that comes in with the social issues and corporate social responsibility is the whole issue surrounding the environment as well. And, they want to satisfy their customers and they want to satisfy themselves as well, make sure that they do the right thing. And I think this is basically something they do when they put all these things together. Now, the role of the private sector, obviously, it has a massive role. Without the private sector, the tourism industry couldn't exist. And obviously, this is where the government and where policies should encourage people to develop their business ideas, be part of the tourism industry and the private sector there as well. And they do that by building and managing the required tourist facilities in all places of tourist interest. So again, this goes back to how good is the tourism infrastructure, and that's not just roads, but hotels, restaurants, attractions, places like that. They need to assure collective responsibility for laying down industry standards, ethics, and fair practices. Of course, they do, and also they have to involve the local community. The local community are the ones that make or break the tourism, because if they are not involved in projects or don't feel the benefits of tourism, the local community is not going to like any initiative or any tourists in their area. And make sure that there aren't too many tourists in the area and that people feel the benefits. Of course, there's industry training and manpower development, and again, if you look at People First, they do a lot with regards to that as well in the Institute of Hospitality, and that's again, they work together with the public sector. There's a lot to do with and this is related to, achieving your aims, achieving quality and excellence, and making sure everything works the way it's supposed to work. Again, they should work together in investment, marketing strategies, and research. And again, if you go on Mintel and Keynote, they do a lot of research in the industry as well. Facilitate safety and security of tourists. So again, this is where the private sector has to adhere to the guidelines by the public sector. Preservation and protection of tourist attractions, of natural resources, of coastlines. Again, if you look at the UNESCO, for example, they've got the World Heritage Sites, and they are protected as well. And promote tourism on a sustained and long-term perspective rather than, let's quickly create something and just feel the short-term benefits, because again, this is where everything then goes the wrong way, and tourism won't be developed in a responsible way either. Now, one of the things the private sector does, and this is the last point of this here as well, is the sustainable development. And I'm not sure if you've all heard about it, but there are loads of blue flag beaches in the UK and around the world. And it's an eco label, and it's awarded to quite a few beaches in 41 countries. Now, the question is, does it actually help, or is it just a marketing tool? Now, if you don't meet a certain standard as a beach, you lose your flag. And a couple of beaches, like Brighton, lost its status as a blue flag beach last year, and hasn't regained it either. But the this initiative is owned and run by the Foundation for Environment Education, the FEE, and it's all about water quality, environmental management, education, information for locals, the tourists, anyone using the beach. Um, it's an establishment of financial incentives to direct tourism investments, and again, this is where the question comes up again: is it a marketing tool? Do they do that to say, oh look, in their brochures or on their website, we have for the 10th year running, we've been awarded the blue flag, and we're one of the cleanest beaches in wherever in the UK. It reinforces environmental legislation and regulations. Again, otherwise they lose their status. There's an encouragement of voluntary initiative, so people can actually be involved in educating others, can actually be involved in cleaning up the beaches, for example, things like that. And it's all about giving information to the public, to operators, and also decision makers. Some of the examples for blue flag beaches for 2011, because the new list hasn't come out yet, is Scarborough, Bournemouth, Skegness Pool. Torbay is one of the new ones, and Bognor Regis as well. So they are the ones that have really apparently cleaned up their act as well. So they haven't been on the list for quite a while, but you can actually go on the website as well and have a look what other beaches there are. And just to reiterate why there is a need for private and public sector links, A, again, is to achieve sustainable tourism development. The public sector makes the rules and policies, the private sector has to adhere to them, but also they consult on these rules and policies as well. So they can't just set the rules, they are the legislations, they have to do that in consultation with the private sector. Otherwise, you won't achieve community involvement. People who own the businesses very often live in the community. They are local population. The local population, if they're not involved in the business, they have to use the businesses as well. If it's all a benefit for the tourists, the local population, again, will be disgruntled and won't be using the local facilities. Plus, the money should go back into the local community anyway, which means there should be a certain amount of local employment, and the public sector needs to ensure that together with the private sector, and again to achieve long-term goals. And as I mentioned before, the distinction between the two sectors can be blurred. I'd use the example of attractions and conference venues. Sorry. And this is where some bodies are created from public and private sector organizations together. So again, if you look at Visit Britain, for example, it's a mixture in there. It's not just private, it's a mixture of, partly government, but it's government funded, but also obviously made up of private sector organization. And destination management organizations provide marketing help for their members. Again, when I used to work for Eastbourne, a lot of the marketing was done by the council with the help of the businesses in the area. So again, the council published a lot of destination marketing brochures. Now, to sum up, customers in the industry and from the general public demand products and services from travel and tourism organizations. They're either from public or private sector or a mixture, and very often those two sectors combine to provide services, especially to guarantee a long-term sustainable development of tourism in a certain destination or certain area. Now, Next time, we're going to do impacts of tourism. One of the lessons is going to be impacts of tourism. I want you, in preparation for that, I would like you to think about some impacts and benefits that going on a holiday has. So, what I want you to do is think about going on holiday and what impacts tourism can have on destinations. So, that's a bad thing, and what benefits it can bring, and how do these things come about as well. Use a discussion forum for this, and use an example where you've seen good practice, or where you've seen bad things with regards to the environment, the economic situation, how people are being treated, and how tourists behave, or how locals behave towards tourists as well, because this is all something we're going to talk about next time. Here's a bit of a bibliography, and that's it. Okay, now that you've done the workshop, there are maybe some questions that could be answered. So, for example, what makes a destination appealing? So, why do some customers choose one destination over another? There are quite a variety of reasons. It could be the destination itself. Some people prefer to travel to hot climates. Other people don't really mind where they go. Others like to go into cities for short breaks. Other people rather go away on a longer holiday. Maybe you've got friends or family living somewhere, and you're going to visit them. So there are different. So it's the destination itself. Maybe you don't like certain countries or certain areas, and you wouldn't necessarily go there on holiday. Then, of course, it's all about the accessibility. Some people don't really mind having to change planes twice and take a 3-hour bus ride to get to their destination, because all they want is to be remote somewhere and not bump into tourists every 2 meters. For others, for example, if you're traveling with children, you just want to get there quickly, get there from your nearest airport, get to the destination very quickly from on the other side as well. So it's all about accessibility. Also, if you drive, are you driving? Are you flying? Do you have to take a ferry when you're getting there? And what it's like when you're on the other side? Is it easy to hire a car and then drive to the destination, or is there maybe a transfer as well? Then it's all about the cultural appeal of the destination as well. So again, for some people, if you have to be really careful, and some people don't want that. They want to go somewhere where the culture is quite similar to where they've come from. Other people don't mind experiencing new cultures. So again, is it culturally appealing to you? And sometimes people say, "Oh, people in this country don't like the Germans or British or the French, so we're not going to go there." But again, how do you know unless you've been there? Because people can always have an off day as well. And then the destinations, features, and attractions. And again, it depends what you're into. If you like hiking, you will go somewhere with big out in the nature, maybe in the mountains. If you like kayaking or water sports, you go somewhere where you can do that. If you have a family, you might prefer all inclusive, because it's just much easier when you can maybe put your kids in a kids club for a while you relax by the pool. So again, it depends what the destination has to offer as well. Um, and then, of course, there's a massive variety in destinations as well. So you could either, if you look at the UK, you could either travel domestically within the UK, you could travel over to Europe, or you could travel worldwide. Um, and then you've got rural versus urban destinations. So if you're someone who likes open space and wants to get away from London, for example, or from any other big city, maybe you would go into a rural area or coastal areas as well. Or maybe you like city breaks, so you would go into the more urban areas. Then, speaking of coastal areas, you could also go to central areas, so away from the coast. Maybe if you think about France, go into the mountains. If you think about the UK, go into maybe the Lake District or somewhere like that, away from the coast, or of course, and to some of the seaside resorts we have over here. You then have destinations that are purpose-built or naturally occurring. So you might have resorts, you might have theme parks, places like that, or you've got places where you go because again, as you've got the mountains, you've got the open space, you've got natural attractions, or you've got man-made attractions as well, or you've got historical or modern destinations. Again, if you think of very often, if you think of going to the States, a lot of the destinations are very quite modern. If you think of going to Tokyo, maybe some of the areas there are a bit more modern. If you think of, France, if you think of maybe of Paris or London, you might think more of history, and if Rome and Italy, especially if you go to Pompeii or somewhere like that, is of big historical significance as well. Okay, now it's all great for me to tell you that, but what I like you to do now is to have a specific look at Spain, because Spain is a traditional destination, especially for again for the Northern Europeans, for the British, and also for the Germans and Dutch. And why is that? Why are we attracted to Spain? Look at all these aspects like natural, cultural, man-made attractions, access, and other tourism infrastructure like hotels, restaurants, and stuff like that. Who visits the country? So where do the people come from? What problems has the country been facing, and how has it been dealt with? How has the country dealt with them? And again, I've set up a discussion forum, and I would like you to discuss that and comment on stuff that the others have put down as well. So please do these exercises. It shouldn't take you more than half an hour, 40 minutes, and after that you can go to the next lesson, and these are some of the resources I used. Welcome to today's lesson for Introduction to Tourism. The topics for today are characteristics of tourist generating regions and also the private sector involvement in tourism. If when you go onto Moodle, those lessons are under lesson 6 and 7, and the quiz for the private sector one is on the lesson 7 Moodle page as well. Now, for today, the agenda is first of all aim and objectives. Then we will define tourism generating areas and its characteristics. I then have a workshop for you that deals with the appeal of a destination, and then I also have another workshop for you to do, which is all about the attraction of Spain and why do people go to Spain and where they come from. Now, the aim and the objectives. The aim is to discuss the importance of tourist generating regions, and the objectives are to define what tourist generating regions are, to evaluate their characteristics, to give an overview of what transit routes and what transit routes are, and also to discuss what makes a destination appealing. Now, the first thing we need to do is to define tourist or tourism generating areas. And basically what it is, it's the area of origin of the tourists. That means that it's the area of their permanent residence, and it represents the source of demand and the market where the major marketing function of the tourism industry are based. So basically where you live and where you hear about certain destinations through the media, certain marketing campaigns, and where you basically make your decision where you want to go and why you want to go to certain places. And there's also mainly large concentrations of population in developed countries are the main generating areas of international domestic tourism. And the reasons for that is that people like us who live in developed countries have more time, more disposable income to spend on holidays, and we have more the motivation and the desire to go on holiday as well, because after work that's what we want to do and we want to relax. And as we all know, we also have the opportunity to go away on trips for business. So again, there's another reason there why a lot of us from developed nations go on business trips into other countries as well. Now, the question is, what are the characteristics of these tourist generating regions? Well, first of all, they provide the push to motivate you to travel. So people might tell you about somewhere where they've been and you really want to go there. Obviously, we're very heavily influenced by marketing and by marketing messages as well, and how destinations are portrayed and delivered to us. Obviously, it's also from where we as tourists, or from where tourists get their information. They research the information to find the holiday. You make the booking from your tourist generating region, and obviously you also depart from that region as well. And you depart to obviously to your tourist destination, and the tourist destination is the sharp end of tourism that hopefully benefits from people coming there, but also is very highly impacted by tourist behavior, and other things, as well as to how much money is spent in the economy. Before you arrive at the well, there's one other thing, obviously, with a tourist destination as well. Obviously, the destination is the reason that tourism exists. So if there was a place you didn't want to go to, or you can't go to because of certain political reasons, that destination is not that place is not necessarily a destination. But also, obviously, the destination is distinguished from everyday life by cultural, historical, or natural significance. So there is a reason you go there. Either it's to lie on a beach for 2 weeks and just relax, or also to take in the food, the drink, the people, and its natural resources as well. Now, before you get to the destination, and where you go is your transit route, which is basically the route you take from your home destination to your destination, and this is where your journey basically starts. And there are different geographical elements to transit routes, and LIPA has a model, and I just would like to show this to you. So if you look at this model, it shows you someone traveling with somewhere, but it has two destinations as well. So basically, this is your tourist generating regions from where someone would leave. The transit route 1 is to go to the first destination of the holiday, and then so let's say you fly from Heathrow to New York, for example, and then you stay there for a little bit. And then your transit route 2 would be then if you then had booked to go down to Florida for a week or two. So that would be then from going from New York to Florida would then be your transit route 2. And then your transit route 3 is then going back from Florida to London Heathrow or wherever you're flying to. Now, obviously, if you have more destinations within your holiday, the more transit routes you would have as well. So if you took a road trip, for example, you would have quite a few transit routes within this road trip as well, because you potentially are going to see more than just one destination or one or two cities. Now, what I want you to do now, or once you've finished with these slides, is to think, why do you choose certain destinations? Why do you go on holiday where you go? What sort of destinations do you like? With that, you would look at their characteristics and give examples, and you would, not just look at their natural and culture, but also maybe accessibility or the sort of holiday that you like. I've put a wiki up in lesson 6, so you can use that, and I will have a look at them once you're done with them as well.